All right, today we are talking about a little known calculation that you can do that can save you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars while reducing your stress and helping you enjoy your life more.
I mean, I like the sound of this.
Yeah, and we're going to show you how to do this in under 10 minutes. So
Okay.
I've seen some people who have done this exercise and who have immediately freed up, 10 or more hours each week
Really?
while increasing their overall earnings. So it's really powerful. It's easier than third grade math. And like I said, it's probably going to take 10 minutes or so.
Well, what is it?
We're going to get there. We're going to get
Okay.
there. So everyone thinks they know how much they earn, like how many dollars per hour they earn, but most people are wrong. And that's
Okay.
kind of what we're talking about here. Because most people just look at, this is how many dollars per hour I get paid. I get paid $20 an hour or whatever. That's my hourly wage.
Right.
Or if I'm on salary, then I can take the amount of hours I spend in an average week, divide that by my total salary, and then come up with an hourly wage. And again, that's wrong for almost all of us. And I'm going to show you why. And this is super powerful if you are someone who is you want to stay at home with your kids, and you're like, I have a job, but I want to stay at home.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to retire early. Or maybe you have a job and you feel like it's golden handcuffs and you're like, I want to go do this, but I feel like,
Right.
this is super powerful because it's going to help you know exactly when you can make that move or not. So,
Okay.
all right, if we haven't already met, we are Bob and Linda Waddick, and our job here is to help you thrive financially because we want to see you become seven-figure givers. Like, we've seen God do this in our lives,
Yeah.
and we want you to thrive financially so you can be in that position to be able to give on a significant and high level.
Yeah.
So if you want our best tips, our best strategies, join our email newsletter at seedtime.com. That's where all of our best stuff is sent out. So with that, let's get into this. And this whole thing we're talking about here is inspired by this book I read, Your Money or Your Life. I read this many, many years ago. It's an old personal finance book. And this exercise came out of there. All right, so now most people think that if I make, say, $2,000 a week and I work 40 hours, and if I take that and divide that, and that equals $50 per hour, okay? That's what most people think. And that makes a little bit of sense. But I'm gonna show you why that isn't even close to that simple. It seems like that's the simple calculation that should be, but it's just not the way it works, okay? So when you factor in all of the additional expenses for going to work, so for example, I remember when I had a corporate job,
Yeah.
I had to leave a half an hour or more before
Right.
to drive all the way downtown. And then I had to drive
Usually an hour. I
half
think
an
you
hour
have to-
back.
Yeah.
So it ended up being well over an hour per day extra that I was working, or I had to do that in order to get to my job.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs to be factored in. And then on top of that, like, I had to get up early to get ready. I didn't have a lot of hair that had to be done or makeup,
You
but
had
I
that
still
going for
had
ya.
stuff that needed to be done. And
Right.
for a female, like, it takes a while to get ready for work.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do some stuff here while we're working at home. But the point is, those are things that need to be factored into the equation. On the other hand, there were clothes that I had to buy. I had to buy dress clothes for this thing that I worked at.
Yeah.
I had to buy just a lot of different things. And you have to factor all those pieces in the equation.
Right.
And so I'm going to list off a handful of different things here that I think are worth considering. And the book mentions a lot of these. Some of these are our own we just kind of came up with. But so another thing they list here is decompression time. So if you have a job that's super stressful and you get
Yeah.
home and you just aren't on your A game as soon as you walk back or walk in the house and like, I need a minute. Like, that needs to be factored in the equation because
That's
that's extra
interesting.
time that you need to spend doing that. If you have a super stressful job that is causing you to be sick, like in some of these, like, you might think, well, that's a stretch, and maybe it is, but these are things to factor into this equation when we're trying to figure out our true hourly wage, okay?
Right.
So if you have a job where all the stress is making you sick, or you're having to go to the doctor more because of stress or anything like that, like, this has to be factored in the equation, okay? So wear and tear on your car is something to consider.
Yeah.
Or, like in our case, like, the alternative that I was considering to my corporate job was me staying at home and running a business from home. In that case, we could have gotten by with one car. So really, the expense of a car was tied to that job that I had.
Yeah.
Now certainly there's other jobs where, you would still need a car. So it
Right.
all depends on what you're kind of comparing it to. But
And where you
It's
live.
just something
and all types of factors.
to be considered for
Right.
sure. All right, another one is what I call deserve it expenses.
Oh boy.
So, so stuff where, man, my job is so hard. I hate my boss. I came home. It's like, I deserve to X, Y, Z, or
Wow.
whatever. Whereas if you're doing a different job, you might not need to have that, not to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, I deserve to not make dinner tonight.
I deserve to not make dinner. I deserve to go get this massage, blah, blah, blah. Go out in the bar and have a whole bunch of drinks, whatever the thing is. But the dinner thing brings up another thing.
But you might actually need a massage.
No, yeah.
Right.
But again, depending on the work that you're doing,
right.
like you might not. And that's why that has to be factored into the equation. In terms of food, like again, my position that I worked at, like sometimes there's a little bit of pressure to go out to lunch, which causes you to spend more money, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that has to be factored in the equation. Because if I were working at home, I probably wouldn't have gone out to lunch in that situation. So as you're seeing, like there's a lot of things that people don't consider to be expenses that are tied to their job. And this is how you determine your real hourly wage. I'm going to give you a few more things to consider here. So are there other things that you are paying other people to do because you just don't have time? Because maybe you're working 60 or 70 hours a week, that if you did have a normal 40-hour week job, or if you were working from home, that you wouldn't have to pay someone to do.
Right.
So like that's a factor. Another really big one for a lot of women considering being a stay-at-home mom is like childcare.
Yeah.
You know, because this is such a big deal. Because this is why this is so important. Because once you determine your real hourly wage, it's like suddenly childcare, maybe it doesn't even make any sense to have a job. Because like you factor in the expense of childcare, and it's like, wait a minute.
Especially if you're wanting to stay home with your kids, and you're like, are they paying me enough money to keep me away from my kids? Like,
yeah, because if you look at what's on paper, maybe you're making $20 an hour, but after you do this exercise, maybe it's less than what you're paying.
Right.
You know, and so I'm going to get you an example in just a minute and show my exact situation and what was going on with me. And then, you know, just kind of show you exactly how to do this whole thing. But anyway, the point is as you're going through all these costs, you can be thinking about these and writing down estimates on them, because a lot of them you're going to have to estimate. Like they aren't going to necessarily be black and white numbers. And you want to be realistic with this. Like if you get too far into, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I have to do everything because of them. Like, you know, you want to be realistic with it to make
you have
a good,
to take
solid
the
calculation.
emotion out
Yeah,
of
you got to remove a little bit of that. But
know
anyway,
yourself well.
so let me pull the iPad back up and just kind of go through an example from my life and my situation. Okay.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to take over writing. Your handwriting is a little...
Great. Okay.
All right.
So my last job, this would have been 15 years ago or something, right before I got laid off. I was making $36,000 a year, working 40 hours a week. Okay, that comes out to about $3,000 a month.
Okay.
And 160 hours each month. Okay. So we do that, we divide that, and then we get $18.75 per hour. That was my hourly rate, $18.75 per hour.
Okay.
So doing this exercise, what I did is starting going through all these different things, added up my drive time. So it was about 1 hour, conservatively, we'll say 1 hour per day drive time, which comes out to 20 hours per month.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take this. Did we write down 160? Did you write down 160? You write down 160.
160 what?
Hours.
160. Oh, okay.
So that's how much I was working every month, 160 hours. And so we're going to add to that all these additional hours. So the 20 hours per month of drive time, we're going to add to that. And then we're going to add, it was about, I don't know, 10 hours a month, 30 minutes a day for getting ready for work.
Okay.
So each day, about 30 minutes a day, it comes out to 10 hours per month. 30 minutes, like each day I had a lunch break where I wasn't paid, but I really couldn't go anywhere. So it's kind of like trapped. You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm you know, not working, but I'm also stuck there. So it's like time I have to be there. So that's 30 minutes a day. So again, that's 10 hours per month. Okay. That I think we should add to this equation.
All right.
For me, I think it was probably about 30 minutes a day of decompression time, especially when the job was really challenging. When I got home, where I feel like I'm not myself. I need to breathe for a little bit to kind of get back. So again, that's another 10 hours per month. Okay. Okay. So we add all of those up to that 160, and that gives us 210 hours per month. Okay. That essentially my job was costing me of my time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We get all there. So we got 160 plus 20 plus 10 plus 10. 210 hours per month is about where we landed.
Okay.
All right. So let's go break out another page now. And then we're going to look at some of the additional expenses that I incurred in my particular situation.
Okay.
When I looked at all the money I had to spend on clothes that I really didn't wear anywhere else other than work, it would end up being about $100 a month.
Yeah.
In some cases, maybe more. So it was $100 a month on clothes because I had to do that. I would say $200 a month, probably eating out because I was just too worn out to cook. I tend to be the cook in our house.
Yeah.
And so there's just those nights where it's like, I just got beat up at work all day. I don't
Yeah.
feel like going to the kitchen and cooking. And so we're going to go out.
Yeah.
And it's just different, you know. And again, for me in my situation, I'm comparing this past thing to the work from home opportunity that I have now and running my business from home. And I don't have that too often. I cook a whole lot and I enjoy it, you know. But the point is that was an extra expense I had. So $200 a month on that.
Okay.
$200 a month on gas, driving to and from work, back and forth, that my employer didn't pay me for.
Yeah.
And I would say probably $200 a month on wear and tear on the car. I think that's a fair kind of depreciation expense that, you know, just the cost of needing a car to do that. And then, like, if we add it up, just the fact in our situation that, like, we could have maybe even gotten by with one car and then we just get rid of that entire car, lose the car payment and all the stuff. Like, that was another $300 a month. So anyway, and so there's a whole bunch of other things we were talking about that, like, I could probably add to this equation, but we'll just start here. And so you add all those up, you get $1,000 per month of extra expenses that it was costing me to do that, okay? Now, we take the $3,000 a month that I was earning, and we now need to subtract out this $1,000 a month, okay? And so that gets us to an actual earnings of about $2,000 a month, okay? And then, so we're making about $2,000 a month, and then our hours, they say it's only 160, but it's actually 210. So we divide that, those $2,000 we're making, by this 210 hours per month, and that gets us a real hourly wage of $9.50 per hour. So even though I thought I was making $18 per hour, the reality is when you add all this stuff up, it was only about $9.50 an hour.
Gosh.
So, and this doesn't even take into account like taxes. Like, we're not even going there yet. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like, this isn't take-home pay. This is still like top-line numbers.
Right.
And so, yeah, and there was another example. I don't know if I ever told you, the one girl who drove in our office, I think she drove an hour and 15 minutes to work every day.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
had someone that drove like that to my work too.
and I'm like,
Can't
man,
imagine she was making much either.
we're working for, you know, pretty low paying jobs
Yeah.
at that point, and the amount of miles she was putting on her car
and when gas was
the
spiking
time,
and,
like,
oh gosh.
it's like I can't even imagine running these numbers for a situation like
Right.
hers. And so the point is, like, how to use this information. Like, what I want to talk about now is this is information to help you make a better decision for you and your family, okay? Because in my case, $18 an hour means one thing to me. But once I find out that it's actually $9.50 an hour, man, there might be a $12 an hour job right next door to me that
is less stressful.
that actually is closer, the
Yeah.
real hourly wage is closer to $12 an hour that would beat this out. You know what I mean? And so that's really powerful. And it's like, you know, maybe driving for Uber makes more sense for you, you know, than doing this thing. Like, it's just information to help you make a better financial decision. And that's why this is so important.
It's interesting because it's really, like, people don't think like this right now.
Not very many.
Like, I mean, I remember there were several places close to us that maybe you could have gotten a job, but it would have looked like a step down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he can't get a real job, so he's got to go, you know, do this. But actually, like, would it have simplified our life a whole lot more? Probably.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yeah. So I worked at a financial services firm, and I got to dress up every day. And from the outside looking in, it looked like I was special. But the reality is I was stuck in the middle of cubicle land pushing papers and
you were miserable.
No, and hated it. And meanwhile, at the same time, like, based on this exercise, I probably could have went and waited tables at a nice restaurant and done way better. You know? So anyway,
and
it's just,
not hated your life.
yeah, and just had more freedom and everything else. But So with all that, I want to throw out just a few other factors to consider with this whole thing that some are counterpoints to this. Because again, like there's nothing in personal finance that is one size fits all. And so you need to be able to evaluate these decisions all the way around. And I want to give you all the perspectives here. So one of the counterpoints to this in terms of like, should I go drive for Uber or should I work at this corporate job?
Right.
Is you need to think about the long-term potential of it, right? You need to think about the career path.
Right.
Okay, so Uber, you're probably not going anywhere beyond that. You know, like there's not a career
You're
path
not
for
climbing
advancement.
the corporate ladder.
You know, in my case, there was some opportunity, and I was a little bit pigeonholed in my personal situation, but at my company, there was a lot of opportunity for growth.
Right.
And a lot of opportunity that if I would have stuck there, I probably would have advanced into higher level paying jobs and stuff like that. And so that's a factor to consider, you know, in the whole thing. Another thing is that it's not just about the money, right?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just about that. Like, I think that's something to always consider with your job.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about what they're paying you. You know, and something else, like the drive to work, like I actually miss the drive to work, right?
I know. Yeah.
Like,
you do.
I enjoyed having that time, that quiet time to and from work. And part of that, honestly, was part of my decompression time.
Right.
My time to listen to audiobooks or podcasts or whatever. You know, and I know for you, like you really miss working with people, like in an office environment.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, we love working at home, but I know that you miss that camaraderie of
Absolutely.
having a bunch of people. So like, that's just another factor where it's not just about the math problem that we just showed you, but these are different lenses to kind of think through this decision for yourself, you know, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And then the most important thing, of course, is to follow God and like where he's leading you in this whole thing. Because like, I know when I first did this calculation, I felt like I was supposed to stay in that job. I'm like, I don't want to stay in this job, but I felt like God had me there for a purpose and a reason. And I'm like, all right, I'm supposed to stay here. And so in that case, the numbers don't matter, you know? So you have to obviously keep that into the equation. But anyway, the goal of this whole thing is to kind of help you figure out what this number is for yourself. And so that's your homework right now. To do this equation for yourself, go line by line through all these different things. Yeah, and like I said, you can do this in 10 minutes. It's not going to take that long. It's a simple problem to figure out.
Right.
And yeah, and I'd love to hear how big of a surprise. Like, let us know in the comments or send us a DM or something. Like, what were you surprised by what you found? Was it exactly what it was? Like, how did it come out for you? And is it helping you make a different decision? Like, did you discover, wow, maybe I can stay at home with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
Did you discover maybe I should go chase my dream of doing that other job that seems like it pays less?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is like pretty wild to like think through this process.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the safe thing to do is just probably stay where you are. But for a lot of people, this is a really good exercise to just get information and then take it to the Lord.
Yep.
You know?
And again, you can do this in 10 minutes. So that's my encouragement. That's your homework. Like, go do it, get it done.
And add the perks of like if you get a free if your work has a gym.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
like-
no, do both sides of the equation.
For
Like, that's a
sure.
great point.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to just tear down your job and all the things they're not doing
And
for
I feel
you.
like for you too, like you really loved getting out of that job, and so
Yes. Yes.
it's you're making it sound a little bit like, you know, everything's awful. But like a lot of people have great health insurance. Like that's also something huge to consider.
Yep. Yep. I completely agree. Like I very much framed this through me wanting to get out of it.
See?
But yes, that's a great point. Like,
Yeah.
pay attention to those other perks that you have.
But
you
like
know, the 401k matching and all that stuff.
Add the numbers in it, right? Like
yep.
it's like that all matters.
Yeah. No, because you can do that with a lot of those different things. Like you can get an estimate of what the health insurance would cost you if you weren't doing there. You can get an estimate for what the 401k match is and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So those are easy numbers to kind of add to the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so ultimately, again, the whole thing is just help you make a good decision for yourself and your family. And yeah, so hopefully this helps. Yeah, let us know. Send us a DM. Send us a like. Whatever. That'll help us know.
Smash that like button.
As my 8-year-old always says, smash that like button and hit subscribe and all this stuff. So that's all for today. See ya.
Thanks.